says we're live, so I'll assume that we are. Let's see if we can do some drawing. So, hello, Jerzy Drozd, cartoonist and teaching artist. And what am I doing today? I am inking, hopefully, 2 pages of the Captain SRSLY and Supermaster Sentinels comics. How am I getting 2 pages done? In an hour, hopefully. There really isn't much to them. It's just like character team shots where we're introducing all the main characters of the comic. The good guys, or the heroes, and the villains. What am I using to ink with? Got a couple of brush pens here. What is this? Pentel color brush. It's a little bit of a long tip. And then another Pentel color brush with a little bit of a longer tip. Let's see if you can see it. Can I show the difference? Well, I guess. Why not? Why not? Actually, they're pretty similar. I'd say this one is like slightly longer. If I can get it on camera, I can get these pens out of the way. So, those are my brush pens for doing a lot of my freehand line work, and then for like tiny details, a little bit more persnickety lines, I've got some, what are these? Stadler felt tips. Penciled this in Clip Studio Paint, and then printed it out on some Hammermill. What is it? It's like a light cardstock kind of copy paper. So when I dig in and start doing it, that's why you loaded this video, right? That's why you joined the live stream. Let's see if I can move my light a little bit. So. No. And just before I started streaming, my kitten Martha decided to get her paws wet in her water dish and go running right across the paper. And so there's like, you can't see it on the video, but there's little pucker marks in the paper. Still working on my lighting for analog live streaming. I've got my setup pretty darn good for doing my Clip Studio Paint live streaming, but my next project I'm going to do is going to be all analog inks. Analog, I don't know if that's the right term. I'm inking on paper. And I want to get my lighting better in this studio. I'm in a different room than I typically live stream out of too. I'm in an upstairs room which has natural light coming in, but on this cloudy Columbus day, not enough light's getting in for it to make that big of a difference, for it to be noticeable. Now I'm going to break out the other pen for this part because I think I can get thicker lines with that one. There we go. I'll do my contours with this pen. So if I didn't mention it before, I penciled this in Clip Studio Paint and then printed it out. Why not just ink it in Clip Studio Paint? Couple reasons. One, I miss working on paper. I like it. It feels good to draw on paper. Two, my eyesight is not what it used to be, and it's hard for me to get really close on the paper and see fine details. So it means that it actually speeds things up for me because I can't fret the details. I have to live with what I've thrown down. This paper has a pretty smooth surface to it. This is a little different than what lately I've been printing onto watercolor paper and inking on that, and I love the texture that it gives my lines. But for this one, this is the 10th year I'm working on this book, and I'm gonna move my light over just a little bit more. Let's see if I can get you to. This is the 10th book in this series. I've been working on this. Actually, next year will be the 10th anniversary of me taking on the project. I'm surprised to say. 10th year of like beginning development of it. I think the first book came out in 2012. But anyway, my point is that I feel beholden to match the style to what came before. So these things feel relatively cohesive. Not that I'm thinking that first graders and second graders are necessarily going to be holding up each art style and saying like, wait a minute, but who knows? Maybe. Look at that, correcting it on the page too with a white gel pen. Because I don't want to monkey with this too much when I go to digital, because I'm going to take this back into Clip Studio Paint to color it. I designed these characters a long time ago, obviously, well, 10 years ago, and I was playing around with a very different visual style. Well, very different? Is it very different, Jerzy? How different was it from what you're doing? Well, it was slightly more cartoony. Slightly. I was working with this exaggerated style, which you can see on my Comics Are Great website, the Masters of the Universe redesigns that I did back in 2012. I was really playing around with like some exaggerated cartoony stuff, and in retrospect, I think I had a sense of what I wanted to do, but I don't think I understood cartooning as thoroughly as I needed to in order to be able to do what I was trying to do. But they were fine. There were some interesting ideas explored in that. I recently did a school visit with some high school students. It was like an AP art class. One of the students asked me, what do you do about when you finish a thing and you instantly don't like it? Or something like you finished like a couple years ago and you don't like it. And I'm like, oh, I feel your pain. It's tough to look at old work. I'm looking for my white pen again. Where'd you go, white pen? But these days I look at that as an opportunity to have a dialogue with myself about what it is that's not working with my old work. Where was I onto something? Where was I not? I don't think there's much utility in just straight up damning one's past self, at least like about your art style. Well, let's just go ahead and make sure this is getting in the shot. I'm working at my old drafting table that I've had since I was 14 years old. So this year that'll make it, oh dear. Is that right? Is this thing 32 years old? Oh my goodness. That's how long I've been taking this seriously. Part of the expression. I'm working on a project called Captain Seriously. I could be using a marker to fill in these blacks, but I'm using this as an opportunity to warm up my hand. I didn't do a drawing warm up before I started this. I just dove in. Well, I guess I did something of it. What I was doing before I jumped into this was some digital pencils or digital inks on a different project. That's another reason I wanted to do analog inks on this, or inks on paper, was because I'm inking another project, or I'm working on another project that's 100% digital. And while it's fun to do, it's like I knew I was going to need a little bit of a break from that and some variety with what I'm doing. Okay. Always stay hydrated. I think I'm going to do his face with microns. What's kind of interesting about, making my glasses for a second so I can get in on this. What's interesting for me about this one that I'm working on here is, so I have done a Captain SRSLY book every year for about 9 or 10 years now. So, and every year a new book is given to the students the year that I've made the book for. In other words, like the first book was for 2nd graders. Next year I did a book for 3rd graders, then 4th graders, then 5th graders. And the series is aged up with those kids. And the kids, the incoming 2nd graders get the book the following year, and then the 2nd graders who graduate the 3rd grade get the 3rd grade book the following year. And so this book like follows the students throughout their life. And naturally, I wanted to age up the books to go along with the students. So the material gets a little bit more challenging, a little bit more complex. The characters change and evolve. And so by the time you get to the 10th grade book, they don't look anything like this anymore. The 10th grade book, the 8th, 9th, and 10th grade books all take place like sort of after like an apocalypse has happened. It's gotten all like Hunger Games-esque, that kind of storytelling. So the characters look totally different. This character looks different. This character looks way different. This character looks like... Dame Ladycat stays pretty much the same. He looks kind of the same, but there's a twist to it. Anyway, I don't want to spoil anything because some of the kids might be watching. You have to wait till you get old enough to read those books. But so this is me going back, and now I'm doing a book for the 1st graders, so I have to go back to the old character designs, and it is really neat to revisit these old designs and try to like I said, I'm trying to make them match, I'm trying to create some cohesion, but at the same time I'm looking at some of the designs and the poses and thinking about how the me with 10 years more experience would approach it. And I did make some changes, very minor ones, but how are we doing on time? 14 minutes and I'm already this far. That's great. Jerzy, why are you watching the clock? Why don't you just get lost in flow state and enjoy this? Well, it's kind of hard when you're live streaming. That's part of the trade-off of doing this live. Is get some white ink going. Come on, Dynagator. The trade-off is that I don't feel like I have the opportunity to get lost in the work and get into that nonverbal headspace, because this is partially a performance, right? I like inking this guy because his lizard skin gives me the opportunity to like incorporate little mistakes. So like when I screw up on drawing these fingertips, that's okay. It's just part of his scaly skin. I'll work it in. Alright, now gets the hard part, getting some of these smaller characters. Like Turnbuckle Tootweiler here. Turnbuckle Tootweiler, the wrestling champ. That's his power. He's the wrestling champ. Come on, camera. Another trade-off that I make in doing live streaming is that all this equipment is on my art desk, so I can capture it and put it in the stream, and I don't have quite as much room to flip my page around like I typically do when I'm inking on paper. Look at that beefy arm. I think we're going to use microns for his inner details too. I remember when I was first designing these characters, one of the things I was kind of fascinated by at the time from a cartooning standpoint was trying to define the entire contour of a character with a single line. I was really taken with the visual style of the Kim Possible cartoon series, and I just loved how it looked like one whole side of a character's body could be defined by one ink stroke, or at least that's the way it seemed. And so I was really trying to play with that idea and explore that idea with these character designs. So like they tend to have very smooth, you know, there isn't a lot of layering to their costumes. These two, Dame Ladycat and Captain Yarley, there are, but most of the characters, it's like very, I'm not thinking about like the actual layering of the fabrics. It's like it's all just one shape. At least that's the way I was interpreting it at the time. I haven't gone back and unboxed what they were doing with the Kim Possible designs with what I know now. I should. That'd be some good review work. So here we have probably one of my favorite characters I've ever created, Dame Ladycat. And And she's a pretty silly idea. I mean, the idea being that I just wanted to create a character who represented, like, minding your manners, promoting good manners. Because, I mean, this is a book series that has, like, a pro-social element where it's about, like, helping children at different developmental levels, what they're going through in their lives at these different grade levels. So in talking with the teachers, I remember, like, coming up with, like, finding out from them, like, a variety of concerns they have. Like, we want our kids to learn how this more and that more, have a better understanding of these concepts, these kind of ideas. And one of the things was, like, behavior, controlling oneself, understanding that you're not the only person in the room, that kind of thing. And so I wanted to create a character who kind of represented sort of like the ideal of that. But gosh, if you do, Captain Politeness with a domino mask and a cape, oh boy. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that the young people will necessarily be on board or buy it. Some might. I was the kind of kid that I would take comics any way I could get them when I was in school. But I have a very clear memory of being in, I want to say 4th grade. So I was a little older. But getting McGruff the crime dog came to our school to talk about taking a bite of the crime and all this stuff. And we got a little comic book. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. We get a free comic today. And it was like 2 pages. Really nothing happened. It was just McGruff sort of like telling you, like, don't talk to strangers. Wear protective gear when you ride your bike and whatever. And there was no story. And there was like a couple of games at the end. And I just remember, like, really, I remember clearly the disappointment I felt. And if I were to put words to it, I think the disappointment came out of the fact that I thought I was going to be entertained, and it wasn't very entertaining. So I had that in mind when I was working on this book. It's like, okay, well, if I'm going to do these superheroes who sort of promote sort of pro-social messaging for kids, my first job is to entertain them. And whatever key concepts I explore through the characters, I also have to make the characters themselves fun. And so, yeah, this idea of Dame Lady Cat, I mean, it was an idea I'd been working on for other personal projects, this idea of something that was kind of like Victorian kitties. I forget the name of something like Baron von Fluffy Bottom or some silly idea like that. And so I don't remember how the idea occurred to me to pair the words Dame Lady Cat, but I think it was a different name when I was working on my personal thing. But in any case, I was really, like, once I said those words together, it was just like it clicked in my brain, at least, and it felt like basically Mary Poppins' cat, but she's a ninja. Has that kind of absurdity that borders on the Adult Swim show kind of idea, but it seemed to register with the kids. And as somebody who loves his cats, I enjoy drawing her. Where is my smaller one? I need a 5, I need a 3. 3, there you are. Now I need a 5. Oh, thanks, Floofy Piggy. Thank you for the kind words about my inks. Yeah, I don't get to do this enough. But like I said, my next project, I'm going to be doing it all traditional inks. And so, also, like I said at the top of this video, I want to improve my streaming setup in my traditional art studio. Traditional? I don't even know what to call it. I've got 2 rooms to work in now, which is like just an enormously. It feels decadent. It really does. I grew up in a big family, and I was used to never having very much space for myself. Let me get this ink going with my white pen. And so I've for whatever reason, I've never like craved like a lot of space. I've worked with what I had. And then I moved to this new house, and I suddenly I find myself in a situation where I have a digital inking / recording room, and then a room to do traditional inking in, or traditional drawing, and it just feels, like I said, almost decadent. I just feel like, how am I getting away with this? It's not a big room though. It really isn't. But it's more than I've ever had. Okay, what I made a mistake someplace, and I wanted to fix it. Where's it gonna fix? This might take a little longer than I expected. Ah, there you are. Oh, that's not it. I was gonna incorporate that fix with boom, 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 boom. Old timey. I guess, yes, this is my old timey room. This is because I'm actually working on my my very first art drafting table. What am I using to stream? So specific software for 2 cameras. So I'm using OBS Studio, which is a free program that allows you to, it's basically works like a television studio. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but the good news is there are a ton of videos on YouTube on how to use OBS, because this is what a lot of video game live streamers use. And there are live streamers who are setting up sort of like little industries for themselves as being sort of how-to people on how to stream. Gaming careers would be one I would look at. But if you just start by just doing like how to use OBS. Now, why OBS? Well, because it works with a variety of, it's platform agnostic. If you want to use StreamYard to live stream, you can. If you want to use Restream, that's what I'm using right now to like simulcast to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch all at the same time. Or you could just stream to one source right out of OBS. You don't even need to pay for an extra streaming service. You can just stream directly to Facebook or YouTube, whatever platform of your choice, just by using your stream key that your YouTube channel has. Now, how I get 2 cameras is I actually have an old iPhone. Let's see if I can get my camera showing it. There's an old iPhone on a tripod. Let's see if I can get it in the shot. That's my microphone. You don't need to see that. But there's a tripod here with an old iPhone on it that I have set as one of my camera sources. And it's using a technology called NDI. There's an app you can get called NDI Cam from New Tech. And then over my Wi-Fi, it just punches the camera in as a source into OBS. And then I overlay my camera from the webcam on my computer that I'm streaming out of right now. So once you understand it, it's a really simple technology to use. It takes, like I said, there's a tiny bit of a learning curve, but it's worth it because it means you can do like I set this up pretty darn quickly today. I was just like, oh, I'm going to be inking. I might as well live stream. Yeah, Floofy Piggy's backing me up on this. OBS isn't too tough. I use it for a couple of years. I'm just not good. It just takes the time to watch the tutorials and troubleshoot. Yeah, it really. And granted, I say this as somebody who was like very I had a lot of self-interested motivation to learn OBS fast because of the switch to doing festivals digitally this last year. And I work as one of my jobs is I'm the executive director of Cartoon Crossroads Columbus, so I had to learn this stuff. But I also I immediately saw its application for improving my work as a teacher, because I'm also doing a lot of remote teaching. I also do a podcast at leanintoart.com, and I instantly saw that, okay, well, the faster I level up at this, the better I can help make this Lean Into Art project. So there's a variety of reasons. If it was just something where it's like, oh, I'm going to get a live stream once a week, maybe not even once a week, maybe like, I don't know, a couple times a month or something, then I could see why there might not be a lot of reason to learn it really quickly. It's good to see you, Jonathan. The older I get, the more I love your work. Sometimes I think the style direction I went down was based on imitation, not inspiration. So thanks for giving me that, my friend. You're welcome. And thank you, Jonathan, for also being an inspiration. Because, I mean, gosh darn it, your work is just so energized, so dynamic. And I feel like that's like an aspect of adventure storytelling that doesn't get celebrated as much by, I would say, non-practitioners, and I'm not sure why, because I feel like that's something that you can detect it whether or not you have a lot of technical expertise as an artist. You can tell when something feels more energetic and more alive. And it's something that I have, ever since I was a kid, have always, like, I knew when I saw like Walt Simonson for the first time, I'm like, what is this? When I read oh God, I'm trying to think of somebody else who like really captured me that way, with that kind of sense of dynamism. Oh, Rick Leonardi. Jonathan, you've heard me talk endlessly about Rick Leonardi. Like, those were artists where it's like, okay, their pages feel alive somehow. Why? I got to get to the bottom of that. I got to figure this out. And your work feels like that to me, Jeremy, or Jonathan. I know that 50-year-old me would lose his mind reading your comics. Keep going over the lines. Oh, and I ganked my contour by using whiteout. I'll have to fix that. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to do her face with microns. There's no question about it. Even though this is a fairly big piece of paper. In the old days as being 10 years ago, I would have been doing this with crow quills. I still have my crow quills. But again, the idea here is to work fast, and I know if I And I don't think my eyesight would permit me to get in as tight as I used to. I used to get like, this close to the page, which could be one of the reasons that my eyesight has deteriorated so much. It hasn't deteriorated that much. I can still see perfectly well. Just I can't see up close as well as I used to. And I need to go get my prescription updated, I think. And like I said, I'm trying to use that as an adaptation for my work to speed it up and not fuss with it so much. Too often in my younger years, I would try to protect the work from being bad by like just noodling over it. And one of the things that I'm grateful for as I've gotten older is a sense that if your construction's good, you don't need to add a whole lot of fussiness over top. You don't need to protect it from itself that way, if that makes sense. All right, am I at the point where I can start doing micron work? I think so. I think from here on out, it's going to be microns. Nope. I was wrong. I do the shading in Captain Yarley's boot. Look at that lovely dry business. I'm going to put some scales on Dino Gator with that while I got that going. Captain Yarley's hair. Let's get that blacked in, and then we'll move on to doing our detail work. And how am I doing on time? Only 37 minutes. Okay, so I feel like I'm staying on schedule. My goal was to finish this in an hour or less. I think I can do it. Yeah, I find the same thing, Jeremy. Or I keep calling you Jeremy, Jonathan. I've been talking to a lot of Jeremys lately, and also I'm tired, and I apologize. God, Jonathan. Yeah, this idea of like working out like the big shapes and the contours with a big brush, and then going in and adding like the finer details with a couple different size microns. That does. I feel like this is the equivalent of what I used to do with a crow quill, because like I loved crow quill because I could get like really chunky contours out of it, but then I could also go in and do some razor thin work. I do not have that kind of control with a brush. Not yet. And actually, I think I would if I had some more brush sizes. By the way, anybody else watching, Jonathan's art streams are really good too. If you enjoy watching this, he has a YouTube channel. He shares some CSP secrets every once in a while. As I'm working on this, inking on paper, I'm reminded of a story that was attributed to, Neil Adams. Supposedly, if you worked in his studio, he required you to have your desk at an angle and your art had to be almost arm's length away. And the reason purportedly being is that you can't draw a page of comics unless you can see the whole page at once. Like, you're not going to think about how the art's interacting with everything else. And what that's also going to mean is that you are not going to get in here and do a bunch of finagling detail that isn't going to show up on the page anyway. And I feel like that's something I'm getting back to by switching back to doing paper inks or inking on paper is normally I would be so zoomed in on this face right now, and I would be fussing and fussing and fussing with it, and let it go, Jerzy. The construction's there. It's fine. The line's a little wobbly. It ain't the end of the world. Probably not even going to show. Are we almost there? Okay, just got to do Turnbuckle's face and then Captain Seriously stuff. Am I inking mostly traditional now? No. Right now, I'm in the middle of 2 projects, this and another freelance project, and the other freelance project is 100% digital. So to give myself a break, I'm inking this one traditionally. Also to get myself warmed up for the fact that I'm about to embark on a kind of long comic that I'm going to ink entirely traditional. I'm going to pencil it all in Clip Studio Paint, and I'm going to ink it all on paper. For a couple reasons. One, some of the things I've been talking about here today is like this idea that it prevents me from overworking and fussing unnecessarily with the work. But also, if I'm going to be honest, part of it is I like the idea of having that pile of paper at the end of making the book. Like, I watch so many of these other artist friends of mine and acquaintances post that I just finished my book, and they got like 200 pages of Bristol sitting on a desk, right? And it's like, what an awesome artifact of effort, right? The book itself is an artifact of effort, but the pile of pages is such a visceral artifact, if that makes sense. I'm sure you understand what I mean. Also, I mean, another aspect of this is like, I don't want to sound too much like a fuddy-duddy, but I'm just, after 2020, man, I'm kind of done with spending a lot of time in front of screens. I like the idea of just like getting back to a naturally lit room with a piece of paper. Don't get me wrong, I have no resentment for digital technology because it has been, I mean, how awesome has it been to adapt to the, like, how challenging this year was, right? Like, it provided us a way to adapt that heretofore we never would have had. So I'm not dissing screens, but I am saying that, you know, we're spending a lot more time in front of them, and I would like to get a break from that. But yeah, as far as like what my preference is on whether it's analog or digital, this comes up a lot when I do school visits. Kids ask like, what's the best way? And I'm like, well, Jonathan will back me up on this, I'm sure. Gosh, it just boils down to like what you want the work to look like and what you want your experience to be. Like your experience as an artist, right? Because like it turns out that tools matter. How much fun you have using them matters. It contributes to your experience making the thing. What's going on with this number 5? Okay, we're switching to a 7. That's a 1. Yeah, these pens are kind of dried out. What do I got in my bag here? I got a 3, and that won't be much help. I found a brush that replicates the brush pen I'm using right now in Clip Studio. Man, I have not. There's one that's close, and it's the one I use primarily for penciling and inking in CSP. All of my Boulder and Fleet, my animal comics that I do, I use this brush, and it's one of Ray Frendon's brushes, and it is part of his dry brush inker set, and it's called, I think it's called Dry Brush Inker Alt, I think. I'll look it up and I can send you the name. But what I did is I took that brush and I increased I went into the brush settings and I increased the what was it called? The brush density, so that it was it filled out a little bit more. Because when you use it, it really feels like a dry brush you would use for shading techniques. But when I increased the density of the brush, it gives me just enough of a texture on the edge of the brush, and the way it tapers and the way it flows on the page feels pretty close to a Pentel color brush, but it's still not 100% there. And I have hunted and hunted for another brush pen that feels like that. Ray Frendon's brush pens are all great, but I have yet to find one that feels like, a color brush. And it's kind of a drag. But like I said, the closest I've found is it's Dry Brush Inker Alt. That's the name of it, and it's part of his dry brush pen pack. And it's funny because Frendon's brushes are such a treasure trove, but there's so many. You need to take 3 weeks off just to test all the brushes. You can't possibly use them all. It's such an embarrassment of riches. Okay, I think, let's take one quick look at it. Did I fix everything that I needed to fix? Remember, I goofed the contour on Yarly's leg there, which I just goofed again, which I'll fix a little bit more. It looks like it might be done. All the lines are finished. I think we're good. I think page 1 of the comic is inked in 49 minutes. Not bad. So there we go, everybody. The next one is the villains. We have Monstrark. He's a monster and he's a monarch, so he's a Monstrark. Nox, who makes bad smells. Stinkor, anybody? But it's trying to think of transgressive humor for a first and second grader. Well, toots and farts are really funny to that age group. Okay, well, let's make a monster who that's his power, is smells that'll melt your skin off. Professor Von Snotbottom, who is the germ warfare expert, makes bad germs to make people sick. Mad Elaine, M-A-D Elaine, very 60s DC kind of idea, energy vampire. And then Stinker, who is the team's inventor who makes all sorts of nasty gadgets. So, inking them, I guess tomorrow, because I think I'm out of time today. Yeah, I got other things on my schedule I got to do. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me. And you know, what do they say? Smash the subscribe button and all that. I'll see you all next art stream. So, making a lot of noise.